Beetlejuice is another supernatural adventure about the uncanny demon trying to marry a girl who speaks with the dead. This movie is silly and stylish, but it's also a bit sloppy. Let's talk about it. In this movie, we follow the clairvoyant woman Lydia Dietz, played by Winona Ryder. After losing a loved one, she returns home to Winter River, where she's reunited with her mother-in-law, Delia, and her daughter Astrid, played by Jenna Ortega. While mourning, they end up encountering the infamous ghost with the most, Beetlejuice, played by Michael Keaton. They find themselves on a misadventure full of supernatural shenanigans, including a trek through the afterlife and another madcap marriage attempt from Beetlejuice. So starting off with the good, this movie is just high-octane Tim Burton fun. It's got zany horror comedy vibes that make this feel like a pseudo-adult cartoon. The outlandish character concepts and ridiculous affairs feel really animated across the board. And thanks to the creative use of practical effects and wonderful costume and production design, everything is colorful and cartoonish, but with a signature Tim Burton horror twist. Having not actually seen the first movie until I was an adult, I remember I kept thinking, this feels really similar to something that I've seen before, and not just another Tim Burton project. And it wasn't until sitting in the theater for this one that it finally hit me and I realized, oh my god, this feels so much like the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. There might only just be a few of you out there who I'm talking to, but if you've seen that show, but you've never seen the first Beetlejuice movie, let me just tell you, Beetlejuice absolutely served as the inspiration for that show. My initial hope for this movie was for it to give us more Beetlejuice this time around, because the first movie isn't really about Beetlejuice. If you haven't seen it, the movie primarily focuses on a couple of ghosts haunting their old home and trying to scare away the Dietz family after they moved into it. For a character with the nickname Ghost with the Most, he did not have the screen time in that movie to really aptly reflect that. We did get a little bit more of him this time around, but once again, he doesn't really feel like the primary antagonist because he isn't really much of an obstacle for a majority of the movie. But for the times that we do have him, he does not disappoint. Once again, Michael Keaton gives this character so much flair, so if nothing else, you will at least enjoy Beetlejuice himself. So my synopsis earlier might not have sounded very detailed, and that's because this movie is pretty unfocused. There's just not really a central plot line made clear, at least not early enough. What's arguably the most relevant part of the plot is Lydia trying to rescue her daughter in the land of the afterlife. That's even the focus of the movie's log line. But that journey doesn't begin until about an hour in, past the halfway point. Everything prior is just set up for that and several subplots. And that's where this movie ends up getting muddled. The focus is split between Lydia and Astrid's family dysfunctions and several other subplots that focus on Lydia's boyfriend Rory, Delia Dietz, a zombie cop played by Willem Dafoe, Beetlejuice himself, and a demon named Dolores, who looms over the film, inching herself closer to our main characters. Let's talk about her. This movie sets up Dolores in a way that makes her seem like the primary antagonist, and we continue to get little glimpses of her throughout it. She seemed cool at first. She can quite literally suck the souls from others, even those who have already died and gone to the afterlife. She can permakill those people. But if we're being totally honest, she absolutely did not need to be in this movie at all. Like, if they wanted to write her out, they would only have to write out one other character as well. The movie would be just fine without them, and perhaps, it could have made the story a little bit better. With so many characters battling for screen time and relevance, I can't help but think that less would have been more. Less characters to distract us from Lydia and Astrid's growth probably would have made some of their key moments more impactful. But much like the first movie, for better or worse, this one doesn't seem to want to be really strong or compelling with its story. I will say that there are a couple of cool little surprises within the story. I'll spare you the spoilers, but it does have some good moments. But this movie's lack of concern for being compelling at all is made very clear by the fact that whenever someone realizes that someone close to them has passed away, they are pretty unaffected. They're basically just like, ah, man, rats. It's more so about cartoonish horror comedy antics, and it really delivers in that department, but it leaves us hanging on the narrative aspects. Especially in the end, it has a mostly fun and glorious finale, but the way that key characters made their exits just felt like a big middle finger to us. And as silly as this movie was on paper, I wouldn't say that it was ever really laugh out loud funny. A lot of the humor actually just felt pretty dated and cliche. I know that comedy is very subjective, but there were a lot of people in my theater, and I only recall one time in the entire movie hearing one guy in the back of the theater laughing like this. That was good. Oh, just me? Okay. So everything creative about this movie besides the script was wonderful. The costume design was spectacular, the production design was charming, and Danny Elfman, of course, provides another fun and fitting original score. This movie should be approached with the expectation that you're watching a silly cartoon, because it's fun, wacky, and occasionally absurd, but the stakes don't feel real, and you'll probably forget about everything that happened in a matter of weeks. All things considered, I would say this movie was fine. If you were a big fan of the first movie, you should definitely go see this in theaters. Otherwise, I wouldn't say that you're really missing out on much. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please give it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you next week with my review of Speak No Evil.